What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. This is the Week 5 college football betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Colin Wilson. All right, we have a lot to get to today. Here's my prediction, by the way. So last weekend was the sexy card, and we had all the top 25. I think like every top 25 team was in action. It was like the most top 25 matchups is since like 2006, but there wasn't much chaos. I think if you bet the higher ranked team or bet the ranked team against the unranked team, you went like 18-4 against the spread. So everything pretty much went according to chalk. This weekend, not as sexy as far as the total amount of marquee matchups, but I have a sneaky suspicion there's going to be chaos.
Yep.
So I think this is the weekend where you could see some shocking results, and I think it's going to be a really fun weekend, and they'll all be fun from here on out. We're going to get to I think 23 games in total.
Do you know what the theme of this week is, Stuck? Everybody has built these narratives around these teams. Some of these teams' strength of schedule is outside the top 100, and I think people's thought process is going to get majorly adjusted this weekend.
Yeah, I have a couple spots like that that fit that mold that I'll talk about later on. I also have some really trashy trash. So we'll get to that. And we have 4 marquee matchups. We'll obviously get to our underdog, moneyline parlay, and favorites, which have been on a roll of late. But let's first start with some look ahead or look away. All right, this is before we get to the marquee matchups. This is where we kind of focus on what happened last week or what's going to happen next week. And if there's a team that might potentially get caught looking ahead, or maybe they take their foot off the gas a little bit sooner than usual. Maybe they don't want to show too much. So this is kind of the schedule section. And obviously the biggest game of next weekend is the Red River rivalry showdown, whatever they're calling it now, between Oklahoma and Texas, in which the winner of that game pretty much punches their ticket to the Big 12 title game. But before both of those teams get to Dallas, they have Big 12 opponents on their schedule first. Let's start with Texas. Texas will host Kansas. 16.5-ish point favorite here. For what it's worth, last year, Texas drummed Kansas in Lawrence 55-14, I think was the final score. Kansas's offense, we know, is very well schemed, a lot of motion, not relying on one guy. It's just I love watching the offense. It's just great play calling from start to finish, and they're just very well schooled. The defense leaves a lot to be desired, but they're actually creating a lot of havoc this year. I think they lead the country in havoc. So they're, getting into the backfield. They're breaking up passes, causing turnovers. So the question is, number one, can Kansas operate their offense efficiently against Texas, which they weren't able to do last year? And number two, can Kansas cause chaos and force Ewers and company into mistakes? Because just from a man versus man perspective, the talent size gap is just way too big here. So they're going to have to continue that trend of creating havoc in order to get stops. What say you?
Well, I think the first thing you look at is this an overlooked spot? Huge game with OU next week. And I would say no. Last year, Texas beat West Virginia 38-20. The year before, they beat TCU 32-27. That's not a big win, but that wasn't a great Texas team. Those games happened before the OU, before Red River showdown, shootout, whatever you want to call it. So I would say, sure, it's an overlooked spot on the schedule, but that doesn't mean that Texas hasn't played to their full ability, thinking that they've got the Sooners on deck.
It's also a ranked undefeated Kansas team.
Well, and there's also Sark putting up film of Texas losing to Kansas. It doesn't matter what year it was; he's just going to roll that film every year to get his squad fired up. So they're not overlooking Kansas at all. And I think, I've said this a couple times. Kansas is the one team where I got to go a little bit deeper on my handicap, and I just can't put the numbers up and say, well, this team is favored here, and that's why they're going to win, because they run so much interference pre-snap. There's motion, there's pistol. We're in this, we're in that. Jalen Daniels might flex himself out to wide receiver and have Bean throw it to him. I mean, there's so much happening pre-snap. There's two things you have to be good at. One, don't tip your defense with your coverage on the motion. Two, tackle in space. What happened last year? Texas won this game 55-14. Kansas was demolished in the running game, 2.2 yards per carry. Kansas had no methodical drives. They were one of the best methodical drive offenses in the nation.
And if they can't run the ball, they average 2.2 yards. That's, it's a lot of passing motion. But if they can't run the ball, that's the baseline. That's the basis and foundation for the entire offense.
And they lived on short passing, and Texas was able to attack that. Now you fast forward to this year, and yeah, Kansas leads the nation in defensive havoc. That's tackles for loss, interceptions, and PBUs. But here we go. Here's the narrative I talked about at the top. This is a 121st strength of schedule. You face the offenses of Nevada, Illinois, Missouri State, and a BYU team that actually pushed you around on offense. With that schedule, Kansas's defense, this is the stat that I just cannot get over. It's 133 teams in college football, FBS. Kansas is 132nd in defensive finishing drives. 16 opponent drives have gone past the 40-yard line. They have averaged 5.6 points per trip. Quinn Ewers right now is immaculate. 1 turnover-worthy throw, 9 touchdowns. He looks great. I know the running game is bad. Give me Texas right here. One of the sharpest shops just moved it down to 16. I don't care. I haven't put it in the app yet. If everybody else wants to follow suit, that's fine. I make this 18. I'll take Texas at 16, 16 and a half, 17.
I don't disagree on the handicap. The talent discrepancy just on these two teams is big. However, I have a different take here. I'm going to hope, for your sake and anyone that follows you, that Texas jumps out to a big lead, because look, their defense is even better this year, and they shut down Kansas last year. And yeah, Ewers isn't making those mistakes. If Texas is up big in the first half, they come out focused here, score, shut down Kansas. I'm going to be looking for Kansas second half, and here's the reason why. Kansas, is, I think that they're capable of scoring late, no matter who's in at quarterback. So they could go to the backup quarterback, and that'd be a good thing here. But if Texas is up really big, in whether it's in the second, start of the second half or in the fourth quarter, the one thing missing from this team right now is their rushing offense. The rushing offense has not been great, and they really miss Bijan Robinson. Once they get into tougher games and tougher competition, Ewers has been good, albeit inconsistent at times. The offense has been inconsistent, mainly because that rushing attack. They're going to need the running game to get going. So my hypothesis is that if they build a big lead, then that's where the look ahead factor can come in, because one, hey, let's get healthy, not show too much, but two, let's work on this run game, which hasn't been great. That's going to really speed up the clock, and I don't think it would be the most efficient Texas attack from that point on. So I'm going to hope Texas builds a big lead, and then look to potentially get on Kansas live or in the second half. But I don't disagree with your handicap.
You're making a great case for the under too, which I would play, but it's steamed off a number that I want. So maybe live if Texas comes out hot. You're making a great case for the under, and I'd play that too.
Yeah, or the second half under, or live under if Texas jumps out. The other part of the Red River equation is Oklahoma, who's a 20-point home favorite against Iowa State. I'll make the case here. This is where I love the underdog. For what it's worth, the Sooners are just 4-13 against the spread as a home favorite the week before facing the Longhorns since 1980. They've lost outright as favorites in each of the past 2 seasons in this spot on the schedule. The last time they were a home favorite, the week before Texas, by the way, was against Iowa State a few years back. They were 31-point favorites and won by 7. Right off the bat, for you trend folks, and then I'll explain why this makes sense. Matt Campbell, 12-3 against the spread as a double-digit underdog, covering by over 8 points per game. He's 6-0 against the spread when catching more than 17. And 4-0 against the spread teams like Oklahoma, favored by 17 or more in week 5. Just 38% against the spread over the past 25 years, failing to cover by over 4.5 points per game. But so here's number one: why is Iowa State and Matt Campbell so successful as a big underdog? Well, they just ugly up games. Right, their defense is usually pretty good. They're going to ugly up the game, and they generally just really thrive in this role. And I wouldn't be surprised if this game is close late. I think Oklahoma's a bit overvalued. Right, if you look at what they've done so far this year, they beat 2 doormats. Who cares? Tulsa with a backup quarterback and Arkansas State with a crying coach. I don't care about those games. Then they beat Cincinnati, but that game was more about Cincinnati's
Cincinnati
blunders.
lost that game. Let's be clear. Cincinnati lost that game. And
then they beat SMU, but that game was 14-11 midway through the fourth quarter, and Oklahoma was outgained. Even though they covered bullshit covers against the closing number. They're very misleading scores because against Cincinnati and against the SMU, 2 covers, they were net positive 47 yards. That's it combined. Basically dead even statistically in these games. It was just more about the other teams not being able to finish drives. So I think Oklahoma comes in here a bit overvalued because of some fluky results. There's still some issues on the offensive line, still some issues in the secondary. Additionally, I think Iowa State is a bit undervalued. Not only is this a good spot, but Iowa State, understandably so, struggled early in the season on offense because they had this gambling drama. They lost their starting quarterback, right? So you got to have a new quarterback, and you're trying to deal with all these off the field, all this off the field stuff. So yeah, there were some struggles early. They lost at Ohio. Ohio was a pretty good team, and people are going to remember that game. Iowa State, 85% post-game win expectancy. And not only they dealt with gambling drama off field, they've dealt with diarrhea problems. They had a food poisoning bout the night before that game. That their starting quarterback Becht, their leading receiver Jalen Knoll were up all night. It affected them poorly. So even that game was kind of just an unlucky result for Iowa State, and they had to deal with more off the field stuff. The offense still meh. Last week against Oklahoma State, they tweaked the offense. They say, look, we're running into walls. We can't run it. We can't run block. Let's come out. And Oklahoma's run defense has been really good. So let's come out and throw the ball. Let's lean on the pass. Let's use our backs in the passing game. And it worked. Beck was the National Freshman of the Year. He's 27 of 38 for 350, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. This offense found something. And like I said, Oklahoma's run D is really good. That's how you have to attack Oklahoma. You have to. So that was a great preparation game. And seeing that, I think that offense can carry a lot of momentum into this week. So I think Iowa State is undervalued. I think Oklahoma is a bit overvalued. It's a really good spot for the Cyclones. They've historically thrived as big dogs under Matt Campbell. So yeah, I think that this is all about the Clones. I think this line is definitely inflated. So give me the Clones here to keep this close. I wouldn't be shocked if this is like a 1-possession game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I kind of came to the same sentiment, but from a different route. And I think when Iowa State is working best in their offense, it's when they run a heavy amount of 12 and 13. They have not run a lot of 13 personnel this year until the last game. I know the tight end depth chart, is better than it was last season, and running 12 and 13, 2 and 3 tight end sets is what gets defenses confused. It gets them on the move, on their toes, and they don't know what to do. And that changed last week for Iowa State. So it's sort of, if Iowa's watching tape from week 1 and 2, if Oklahoma's going to watch tape from week 1 and 2 on Iowa State, it's not going to be good. Now, Rocco Beck has actually been pretty decent. 7-3 TD to INT, 6-2 big time throws, turnover worthy play ratio. But the Iowa State offense, they really do have they've had some serious issues in the overall season numbers, dead last in rushing success rate, line yards, big play rate, having a problem running the ball. But as far as lining up and running multiple tight set, they're not having issues with that. And they are top 40 in havoc allowed. So they're not shooting themselves in the foot. They just need to get a sign of life on offense, which I think that they got last year. Now, when I switch over to
last week,
last week. Sorry, when I switch over last week. So when I switch over to Oklahoma, I mean, this is the number one passing success rate offense in the nation. Dylan Gabriel has been fantastic. But the issue is that is Iowa State's sweet spot on defense. They're 15th in passing success rate D. They're 15th in coverage grading per PFF. They don't allow big plays. They're top 35 in quality drives, and they're 22nd in finishing drives on defense. To me, this screams under. I mean, it's already 48 in a game of OU. I mean, you have to go back and really dissect that SMU box score to find like 6-7 consecutive punts that Oklahoma put out there. The only explosive playmaker they got on the ground is Tawi Walker. He's created 10 missed tackles and had 4 explosives, but it's not been enough for the rest of the offense. All they do is pass. That goes right in the teeth of what Iowa State does best. I mean, I power rate the game 20.5, so it's right there on the edge. It looks like it's not coming back up to 20.5, 21. If there's some steam on Saturday morning, I'll happily hop in Iowa State. I think the game goes under, and we're going to have a lot of questions. Right now, I power rate Texas OU next week at about 7.5 in favor of Texas. If OU does not look good in this game, I think that opener is definitely going to be 7.5, 8.5 in favor of the Horns.
Yeah, if they look great and Texas struggles, you could maybe be, then you get like a 4.5, 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm around a touchdown as well. Oklahoma's definitely improved, but you know, their 2 main results against teams with a pulse have been a bit fluky. All right, the other big game next weekend is when is this game? What month? It's the 30th. I was going to say in honor of Brocktober, but it's September.
Almost.
We could smell it. The other big game next weekend, Alabama, Texas A&M. Before those teams get to that SEC showdown, they first have to go on the road. Well, not at home, Texas A&M on a neutral field, but Alabama will head on the road to Stark Vegas to take on Mississippi State. 14.5 point favorites here. I'm right on this number. I'm not a fan of this Mississippi State team. The offense is still just trying to figure itself out. The defense is struggling. Not a team I'm looking to back, but Alabama, look, their defense is great. They showed up last week. It's still an offense that's got some work to do. Not that explosive. Not a team that in a difficult sandwich spot that I'm looking to lay over 2 touchdowns with on the road in a game that you would expect that you'll get Mississippi State's best effort. This is a pass for me. Please tell me that you're not betting Mississippi State again.
I am banned from betting on Mississippi State, although I make the game.
That's on the live show. You can bet them on the pod.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, I bring the best. I've brought the best on Saturday. I think the question is, how does Mississippi State score here? I mean, it's a balanced attack, but they're outside the top 100 in passing success rate, and I don't think you're going to exactly want to line up and run into that Alabama defense. Plus, Jo'quavious Marks, last I read, questionable day to day. I mean, if he's not there, I'm not sure what weapons Mississippi State has outside of, what Will Rogers is going to do. So the ground game might be completely gone. I mean, there's been pass explosives. They're top 20 in the EPA, but that runs right into Alabama's number 1 coverage grading per PFF. And, that speaks to Malachi Moore and Kool-Aid McKinstry, and they're top 20 in defensively in quality drives. Teams are not getting down the field. They're not able to throw. So that's going to take away Will Rogers, the best weapon that Mississippi State has. Go to the other side of the ball. Jalen Milroe's dinged up. So this becomes a complete under game. If he's not under center and Ty Simpson is, to me, I don't see many points coming out of that. But it's a 63% rush rate. They're living on Roydale Williams. Jace McClellan he's created 27 missed tackles. He's close to being the most elusive back in the country. 4th best in FBS, I think. So to me, the number is not good. If Milroe's not playing, I want to take the under in this game. Mississippi State, what scares me is that I talked about Kansas being second to last in defensive finishing drives. Like they let everybody score a touchdown. Mississippi State is dead last in defensive finishing drives. You're not going to cover games. You're not going to win anything if you're dead last and allowing everyone to score a touchdown when they cross the 40.
Yeah, Mississippi State with Will Rogers still there. Go back to the air raid. R.I.P. Mike Leach, the GOAT. The other side of the equation.
And this would become an easier handicap because we always take Alabama to slam the air raid. So
yeah, I agree. If Miller is not in there, this looks like a dead shot under. I also would probably take Mississippi State catching 14.5 if we're back to the tie show.
Right.
Texas A&M.
Oh boy.
against Arkansas. Texas A&M, big news is Connor Weigman is out for the season. Their starting quarterback. I think this is the third straight season that Texas A&M has lost its starting quarterback to an injury. Max Johnson, though, came in last week and looked really good, and they do have a really good backup. They're one of, if you had to rate teams as far as like backup quarterback security, Texas A&M certainly would be up there.
Mm-hmm.
They will take on an Arkansas team that gave LSU a fight. They've been in some weird games this year. Like, they struggled with Kent State. They lost to BYU at home, even though they should have won that game. It's been I can't figure out really who Arkansas is. I can tell you that the offensive line's playing really well. KJ Jefferson has like 18 years to throw, so he's getting a ton of protection. Texas A&M, the offense is more explosive this year. They've seemingly fixed a lot of their run defense issues, which makes sense given all the talent. There's still some vulnerabilities in that secondary, which Miami completely exploited with Tyler Van Dyke. By the way, Miami looks fantastic. I think they're on a bye this week. So Texas, can or KJ Jefferson and this Arkansas offense exploit some of those holes that Miami did in the secondary? Or is Arkansas going to try to come in here and pound and run into walls? What will this Texas A&M offense look like with Max Johnson? Are they not going to miss a beat? I don't have a great feel for this game. This is all you. Texas A&M, Arkansas in Arlington. Colin on the Hogs. What's the look here, and how do you break this one down?
Well, Arkansas corrected a lot of things in between BYU and LSU. LSU's defense has been terrible this year, and Arkansas was able to take advantage. But more importantly, Andrew Armstrong and new freshman tight end from Bixby, Oklahoma, Luke Haas, received 13 targets, and they caught 12 of them. Now, there was just massive drops all over the field in the previous 3 games. So that got corrected. KJ Jefferson finally comfortable with a couple targets out there. Now you got Raheem Sanders practicing with the ones this week. Looks like he's going to play. That might be a reason why the 6.5 is down to 6, but the news of Max Johnson taking over Connor Weigman, no effect on the market. Now the under did take a little hit, about 1.5 points. But the drop to Max Johnson is like, that's not really a drop. He faced Arkansas last year. He faced Arkansas in 2021 when he was at LSU. So this is nothing new to him to be lining up against the Razorbacks. It's too bad that, quarterback Connor Weigman is going to be out. Jimbo said that his swelling was going to go down. Then it shows up the next day and it's actually a broken bone in the foot. And he cut his turnover worthy play rate from 6.1% last year to 2.1% this year. And a lot of people point out, like, Connor Weigman has progressed. Connor Weigman's taken the next step. I backtrack and say that's all Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino is one of the best quarterback coaches in the nation. And I think that what you saw, the progression of Connor Weigman, is what you're going to see with Max Johnson, who sadly has never had an offensive line ever protect him wherever he's been. So Petrino is another factor in here. He called plays against Arkansas at Missouri State last year, dominated, led in the fourth quarter against the Razorbacks. I know it was a down.
Made you wear a neck brace?
Made me wear a neck brace on a podcast. So I don't see a drop off in the Texas A&M offense. They're top 30 in quality drives, finishing drives, third down conversions. I don't think that drops with Max Johnson whatsoever. Now, the game is really interesting because these defenses are really emulating each other. They're heavy on havoc. They're light on stopping explosives. Rocket Sanders is going to come back. He's going to be have ground explosives. And I'm going to see Texas A&M do what they did in their early season play with downfield passing. Both these defenses are 10th, 11th in defensive havoc. I mean, they are that good, but they are bottom 20 defending pass explosives. And passing downs, these two defenses are an absolute mess. Now, in Arkansas's case, it's because they're sending blitz all the time and they're leaving
a lot of aggression. Yeah.
I mean, they're hurting themselves. So if they come out and they play drop 8 Barry Odom style, it's a different ballgame. But Arkansas is just being way too aggressive. It is paying off, but not in passing downs. To me, this game is over all the way. Max Johnson is not a drop-off. That offense is going to be able to take advantage of an Arkansas defense that is too aggressive, looking to blitz all the time. They're only leaving one safety. Max Johnson is going to be able to throw back there. On the offensive side, Raheem Sanders is going to go up against a Texas A&M defense that's 96th in tackling. That's not going to work. They're, and they're not very good in coverage either. And I think KJ is going to be able to connect with his targets. To me, this is an over game all the way. Weigman being out and dropping this total makes it even better. you can't put it in a spreadsheet, Stuck. But what this game is an immense amount of defensive havoc and busted plays on passing downs, explosives. To me, that equals points. So I'm taking the over in this game. As far as the side goes, I mean, I think Texas A&M wins this game. I think the game lands directly on 7. Some really interesting things happening on the Hill this week. Sam Pittman talking about, he deleted his Twitter in case
social media. Yeah, he's been talking about social media a lot.
Deleted it. He's got some players that are having some mental health issues because of social media. I think people that are sharing Sam Pittman's large chest on social media really got to him. He unplugged it, said that he didn't want to turn it back on, but I think Hunter Yurachek, the athletic director, is making him turn it back on. I hate to go against the Razorbacks. I'm going to end up playing Texas A&M because Arkansas right now is desperate for a conference win, 2 losses straight, and they're talking mental health, and that to me brings the entire team together. They feel like they're in a corner and they need to win. I understand all that, but Texas A&M is just going to be better at explosives and havoc. LSU's
You're not fading Petrino. I was going to do a neck brace bet.
Not fading Petrino. I'm saying over, and I'm going to end up. This thing wants to drop to 5.5. I'll take Texas A&M then, but yeah, I'm taking Texas A&M.
By the way, speaking of deleting social media, I almost did today because I sent out a tweet about the Ohio State Notre Dame game, about how Notre Dame had a 95% post-game win expectancy. And then I tweeted out a picture of the dropped interception. I said, if Notre Dame didn't drop this interception, the Ohio State loses, scores 10 points, throws for 200 yards. Marvin Harrison has 13 yards receiving, and Ohio State fans are calling for McCord to be benched. An Ohio State account, like a stats account or something, like with a big following, retweeted and said, I agree. He actually agreed with me that would have happened. But oh man, that all the Ohio State fans, the delusional Ohio State fans across the country, and look, this is every big fan base, they were replying all morning. Who cares if this is what happened? We won. I'm like, and y'all lost. Like thinking I'm a Notre Dame fan. I'm like, oh my God, I had to mute the conversation. And anyway. All right, good stuff there. I mean,
come on. It's Ohio versus the world. Did you not show them your Cardell Jones national championship ticket?
I know, I should have. I was the impetus for that. 50-1 Ohio State. All right. Before we get to the marquee matchups, as a reminder, the BBOC podcast is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get to the marquee matchups of the weekend. All right, we are going to start with the potential funeral of Colorado. The reason I say that is, it's probably the last time that we'll cover them and they'll get this much attention, because after this, they'll have 2 losses, number one. But then they play Arizona State on Pac-12 Network, and they play like Stanford on a Friday night at like 11 at night. And the hype's about to die down. The matchups are about to get way worse. So this is the last. There's like Jay-Z's going to be here. Who else did I see? Like, it's crazy the amount of celebrities.
Lil Wayne,
Obama. I think I was reading a bunch of names. It's going to be pretty wild.
This is gonna be Hollywood's week, though, right? I mean, they're all on strike, so this is USC's week to bring all the.
I think they ended the strike yesterday. I think.
Oh, thank God.
Maybe we'll get some new shows, but yeah, I mean, this is the last week to really talk about Colorado. I did a show earlier today, and the first question I got asked is, will Deion lead Colorado to the college football playoff? So after this game, and presumably Colorado will lose, that will no longer be a possibility. But USC is a 21.5 point favorite here, over under 73.5, which I still think is maybe a bit short. Yeah. Big question here is, look, we know the USC offenses, they're going to score. They're going to score against almost anybody. This is just the Oklahoma team. So we've seen Heisman quarterback, elite offense, the same tired Alex Grinch defense that Lincoln Riley refuses to do anything about. The defense still has major questions against Arizona State last week. Arizona State, a team that got shut out by Fresno State the week before and shut out for the first time at home since 1988 in a game where they had 8 turnovers and used 37 quarterbacks, an NCAA record. They were then in the game with USC last week. And I think it was 35-28, like in late third quarter, early fourth quarter. Arizona State suddenly found an offense. So my opinion on this game, I'm kind of on the number. Look, the Colorado defense stinks. The offensive line isn't very good. Travis Hunter's still not there. How much energy can these kids keep having? And like all the spectacle, maybe it works against them against these like really talented teams that now have motivation, like Oregon did last week. But like this is a big number for a team with a suspect defense on the road to cover. And even if it's a blowout, like if it's 56-28, that's a blowout. Colorado can go down the field and get in the back door, making that hook uber important. So I don't have a strong feel in this game. I don't think I'll be betting it. But if I had to, I think as of right now, I'd take the 21 in the hook. What are your thoughts here?
I bet 26 on open. I bet 24.5. I bet 21.5 all on Colorado. That's my last number I'll buy is 21.5. It's tough not to overreact to the Arizona State box score with USC. Sun Devils exceeded expectations in offensive success rate, number of, a bunch of methodical drives, 8 explosive passes on the day. I mean, we knew the number was too high. I mean, it was 10 points above the power rating for USC and Arizona State.
It was a joke. I'm still upset I didn't play it. I was waiting on the 35. They were priced as like a UMass.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, I figured backdoor cover was in play. No, it was an easy one. And, the big story continues to be the defense for USC. The numbers are heavy in havoc. Solomon Byrd leads the team in pressures. He has 11 stops, but here we go. Like I said at the top of the show, the strength of schedule for USC is 130th. The offenses you've played, San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, and Arizona State, their average offensive rank per SP plus is 104th. They have not faced an offense with any firepower whatsoever. And that, when you look at big plays, coverage, tackle grading, all in scope, it's been really poor for USC. USC has some serious deficiencies on the defensive side, and they almost always show up in passing downs. Now,
and by the way, Nevada, San Jose State, Stanford, and Arizona State in their other games have done absolutely nothing and have looked horrendous.
Yeah. There is a window for Colorado and Shedeur Sanders to continue being explosives in passing downs because that's all they've been. They can't run the ball. They're always 11 yards to go on third downs, and they always convert half of them. And so the formula that USC's defense is actually perfect for what Colorado's been doing through the first month of play. Colorado's number 1 in passing down success rate. I was shocked by that. Number 1 in the nation passing down success rate, an area the Trojans are 101st on defense. They're bottom 10 nationally in allowing explosives. So both teams are, the one thing I couldn't get over is the penalties in this game. Penalties, if you like flags, USC is 124th in the nation in penalties. Colorado is 126th in the nation in penalties. But where it gets really interesting and what I'm going to be watching for this weekend is that Colorado is number 1 in opponent penalties. And so what does that mean? It means that Colorado is number 1 in opponent penalties, which means their teams are being flagged more than anybody else in the nation. Now, with USC already being almost the worst in penalties, you can expect what? 14, 15 penalties for 120 yards coming against USC in this game. So, we'll see how that happens. But I'm taking Colorado to cover based on the USC defense, especially in passing downs against the explosive play. I've heard a lot of people go out there and say, USC is going to score 50. They're going to score 50. Yeah, they might. But you know what? I bet Shedeur Sanders in passing downs can score 30 on this defense. Arizona State didn't have a problem with it. So give me Colorado. And I would stop buying at 21.5. I don't know what's going to happen with steam on game day. I don't know if there's any sharp money on either side of this, but 21.5 is where I stop buying.
All right. After fading Colorado in back-to-back weeks, Colin is back on the bandwagon. Maybe I'll throw some couch change on it for the noon game. But let's get to a game where I do have money on, and I can't wait to make a case for this one. Auburn plus 14.5 at home against Georgia. This game's at 3:30 Eastern on CBS. Total has come down from 49.5 to 45.5. I expect that to keep coming down. In 2 games against Power 5 opponents, Auburn has thrown for 150 combined yards. 150. So I bet them plus 14.5. Why and how will they score? Why? Because I'm an idiot. How will they score? I don't know. But here's the case I'll try to make. Number one, they need to get better quarterback play. Peyton Thornton is probably going to get the start again. He has been inconsistent throughout his whole career. So he'll go off good days, bad days. You got to hope that you just get a good Peyton Thornton. There's been guys open. It's a Hugh Freeze offense. He's just got to hit them. And then I assume he's going to have a short leash, and or Robbie Ashford's probably still going to have some heavy RPO packages. Regardless, Auburn's going to rely on its rushing attack. You have a 3-headed monster in the backfield. And
62% rush rate. That's all they do.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston, Brian Battie, and then sometimes Ashford. They're going to just try to grind this game down, then take some play action shots. You're going to probably see a trick play or two in this game early on, I would imagine. And then they're going to rely on their defense. But for what it's worth, based on the underlying metrics, it looks like how you want to attack this Georgia team is on the ground. So far from what I've seen, and even though they haven't played anyone, they played Cupcake State. But why? So why did I play Auburn? Well, number one, I only have these teams separated by 2 touchdowns on a neutral field. So then at throwing home field, and now you're going to give me, I'm closer to well, not quite closer to 1 touchdown, but you're going to give me 10 when I make this like 10.5, 11. I'm going to take over 2 touchdowns every time. I also think it's going to be a super low scoring game, which makes catching over 2 touchdowns at home even more intriguing. And weird things happen at Jordan Hare, man. I mean, they just do. I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn won this game outright. I mean, I've seen worse Auburn teams pull off bigger upsets or close to bigger upsets in this spot. And Georgia just looks a little off. I don't know. Like Carson Beck's been okay, not spectacular. I think they really do miss Todd Monken, but they haven't really been tested. I mean, they played South Carolina and it looked horrendous at home. Other than that, they haven't covered yet. I mean, they're just something is a little off. I think it's just maybe general complacency. You won back-to-back national titles, and your schedule's a joke. So they keep coming out so flat, and then like they eventually get going. But you can't keep getting away with that on the road in the SEC. And this is the first road start for Carson Beck, who he can prove a lot to me here. And I don't know, whenever Georgia plays a joke schedule, but I still am not a full believer in him. But I just think this number's too high. I'm going to trust Freeze to cook up some things. Auburn offense to play a little better at home. And there's no elite team this year. That's why top 5 teams are 4-13-2 against the spread. I think the new clock rules too are helping these are helping the underdogs that are playing Georgia and Michigan, who haven't covered at all this year.
Well, you heard Kirby say it last week. He's like, I only got 6 possessions in the second half. We have to score on all of them, right? That was against South Carolina, right? I mean, these guys are worried about the clock.
Yep. And for what it's worth, Hugh Freeze 26-12 against the spread as an underdog at 68.5%, covering by 6.5 points per game. He's 9-2 against the spread when catching more than 2 touchdowns. He's won 3 of the past 4 games outright when catching more than 2 touchdowns. Auburn is a home conference underdog, 42-30-1 against the spread, 58.5% since 2005. I just think this number is too high. Something seems a little off with Georgia. I'm going to trust this crowd, Auburn, to bounce back after that embarrassing loss, and them just to find a way to get up early in this game, and then they can make this interesting. So I just think this is too high. I wouldn't take it at 13.5, but you're going to give me over 2 touchdowns. I'm in. War Eagle. You in as well?
I'm in, but I'm taking a different route. Like I said before, I took a different path. I'm going to be on the same thing, and I'm going to try to limit my damages here. Listen, as far as the coaching goes, why Todd Monken was so special was not just because of the offensive design and the offensive play calling. He was one of the few coordinators that had the ability to change after a drive what the offense was going to execute. He could install something completely different, drive to drive to drive. When you go down to Mike Bobo, you lose that ability. And so when you see South Carolina up 14-3, Mike Bobo doesn't have him in him as an offensive coordinator other than go out there, line up. My beef is bigger than yours. I'm going to run over you. That's it. That's all we've seen. These in-game adjustments have been poor. And that goes back to coaching. Now, as far as this game goes, it seems like the Bulldogs are sleeping or they're in a funk. Last year they gave up 22 points to Missouri and Kent State in these exact same weeks early in the season before they shut down teams the rest of the year on defense. Georgia allowed 35 points to UAB and South Carolina the last two games. That's weird. I didn't see Trent Dilfer going in there and getting 2 touchdowns. Auburn can't take advantage of their atrocious offensive line play. And I think that's where Hugh Freeze really kind of laid it out in his presser this week. It's not that Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford have been bad. It's the fact that they haven't had an opportunity to play quarterback because they've got a pressured pocket all the time. So I went into Peyton Thorne's numbers and I was just blown away. He has a pressure to sack ratio over 50%, right? Yes. That leads the nation. And you know what? It's not even close. Over 50% pressure to sack ratio for Peyton Thorne. Second place in all of college football is Grant Wilson of Old Dominion, 38%, like a 15% drop. Like that's how much Peyton Thorne is getting pressured. So of course we haven't seen what we know out of Peyton Thorne. He can throw downfield. We saw him hit, Jalen Reed and Naylor at Michigan State. The offensive line has allowed 29 tackles for loss. The Auburn has not been able to protect their quarterbacks or let Jarquez Hunter not get hit in the backfield all season. Now, I think there's a window of opportunity here for Auburn. And what is it? Georgia doesn't send blitz. They don't send 5, 6, 7 guys. They never do. They try to create pressure with 4. They play quarters defense with 7. And I don't think that's going to change in this game. So does that mean that for once and for all, can those 5 offensive linemen block the 4 down linemen of Georgia and give Peyton Thorne a little bit more time to make decisions, or let Robbie Ashford run some RPO in the backfield? We're going to find out. Georgia is allowing 3.2 points per scoring opportunity to opponents, and they have a strength of schedule of 110th. Now, that is just below national average, but that is not the Georgia standard. Georgia's allowing way too many points to their opponents who get into scoring position. Carson Beck, you mentioned, he's been pretty good. 6-1 TD INT. His turnover-worthy play rate is less than 1%. That tells me he's making really great decisions. But like I said, Bobo's calling the plays, and he's not changing the script, and he's not maximizing what Carson Beck is. Auburn, now here's where I think Auburn can excel. They have 2 shutdown corners. Kayan Lee and DJ James total 6 forced incompletions so far. Both of them rank top 40 of all cornerbacks listed on PFF. I do not see Carson Beck throwing out to the wideouts here. I see Auburn corners, going one-on-one. Maybe the middle of the field is open. I don't know. But I think I think they get frustrated with it. And Bobo says, just line up and run the ball. And, once you get past that, I want to back Auburn, but I'm scared of the offensive line and the havoc allowed. Havoc allowed rank 114th. That scares me. That screams scoop and score, sack, scoop and score. For us to lose is 14-15. So what I did, I'm going to go, because Georgia, for some reason, is asleep in the first quarter. Their point differential is 2.5 this year in the first quarter. They're not doing anything in the first quarter. I'm going to bet Auburn first quarter, first half, and full game, all at half units. Hopefully you cash all 3, but I'm going to limit it because I can't do another scoop and score home underdog of double digits. Like, I've just been burned so many times this year, but I'm going to split it up. I'm going to be with you, but I'm going to go first half and first quarter too.
All right. I'll join you there. My prediction is, and I looked like a genius the other week on all my predictions so maybe I can clip this. When I said I will be up 10-0, and I forget what else I said. And my prediction here, Auburn scores to take the lead in the first quarter on a trick play. That is my prediction.
I will not get over Lane Kiffin saying last year that nobody's more prepared on game day than Hugh Freeze. Yeah, I mean, that he said that on some side SEC network thing. And Hugh Freeze was at Liberty, and I don't know how that conversation got started. I think it was Liberty playing Arkansas. And when Lane Kiffin said that, I was like, that is some massive respect. And I agree with you. There might be a trick play right off the start.
Speaking of Lane Kiffin, let's stay in the SEC and head to Oxford, where Ole Miss will host LSU in a battle of 3-1 teams, where the loser here will pretty much be dunzo for any college football playoff or national title aspirations. Ole Miss.
This is your West Division versus my college football playoff LSU right here.
Yep. Ole Miss 2.5, 3. Shop around as always. Point underdog here. Over under, as the over's taking money up to 67.5, and that does make sense. I love Ole Miss here. So I'll explain why. I mean, look, the LSU offense has looked the part, and the Ole Miss defense has improved under Pete Golding, especially against the run, but it's still not an elite unit. LSU should put up points here. But I also think Ole Miss can go bananas on offense. The offense hasn't been that crisp at times, but they've not been at full strength. I mean, Quinshon Judkins has been hurt. He finally said this week he thinks he's basically up to 100%. That's a really good sign. They've also played pretty much the entire season without three of their most important weapons in Zachary Franklin, Caden Prescorn, and Trey Harris. All of them were listed as doubtful last week against Alabama. All of them, but they actually, all three of them got in the game. They were limited, but they got in the game. Franklin, Prescorn, Harris, all practicing this week. I think Harris can be like 70%. Franklin apparently is at 100%, which is a good sign. So now you're going to get like this, the full, with Judkins healthy, the full Ole Miss arsenal, which they haven't really had. More importantly, the LSU defense stinks. I mean, they're outside the top 100. You name a category, they're outside the top 100. They're also bottom 10 nationally in defensive explosiveness. Ole Miss, top 10, even with all those injuries that I just mentioned. So look, this to me, this almost mirrors Clemson, Florida State, and how I'm approaching this game. I could see LSU winning this game, sure. It could come down to the last team with the ball. I think both teams are going to score. But I'll take the 3 and the plus sign with the team that I make a small favorite in a game that I think will be right. Last week, I had Clemson plus 2.5. Would make that bet a trillion times. They had a 65% post-game win expectancy. They gave up the defensive touchdown, never trailed until overtime. Make that bet again. That could happen here, but I'm happy to take this. I make Ole Miss a small favorite, like tiny favorite. But this offense now at full strength. You know, last week, it was Alabama's season at home with a top 5 defense. This LSU defense is lost. I knew the secondary was going to have problems. I didn't expect this entire unit to struggle as much as it has. And for what it's worth, since 2005, Ole Miss, the most profitable underdog by a wide margin against top 5 league opponents. 28-14 against the spread, including 15-8 against the number, 65.5% in Oxford. So yeah, I think this should be a pick. And I think basically it's just like you score, I score, you score, I score. Who has the ball last wins. Mm-hmm. So happy to take the 3 here.
Yeah, this is your live betting bonanza of the day. I definitely will be trading +7s if I can get them on both teams in this. But to me, this is a pure over. You mentioned it. These LSU numbers are so bad that's it's laughable. It's like I don't know how.
Everything's outside the top 100.
And you know, I mean, I know their strength of schedule is top 25, but I mean, come on. So look, just to add, Jaden Daniels, LSU's offense, top 10 ranked, nearly everything, top 25 strength of schedule. So it's legit. What Jaden Daniels is doing this year is Heisman worthy. They've just got to win some games, and they got to cover up what's going on in the defense. Think about Ole Miss is just unable to generate a pass rush. They're 112th in defensive stuff rate. That means Logan Diggs is going to be able to create explosives and run all day. Ole Miss is 49th in defensive quality drives, and LSU is second offensively, which means LSU is going to score a whole bunch of points. Ole Miss, same advantages by far. You know, I think
plus Ole Miss there's going to be a ton of explosives in this game, like explosive scoring plays. So like without the clock moving, like this should be just a complete shootout.
Well, there's going to be no resistance for Ole Miss in passing downs. Let's just say for some reason Judkins comes out there and he's still averaging 2 yards a carry and he's still hurt. LSU is atrocious in passing downs, and Ole Miss is pretty good. So LSU's defense 120th in success rate in passing downs, 118th in allowing explosives. Don't worry, Ole Miss. If you fail on first and second down, LSU is going to give you a gift on third down. So I missed the key numbers on the total 65-66. I just slammed a bet in. I slammed it on the action app. The biggest key numbers in this range, I guess, are kind of 65-66. They hit in 2.2% of college football games. I'm playing the over on 67. I'm happy with that. I projected at 71. I'm not sure if the clock matters here, considering Ole Miss runs 22 seconds per play, considering LSU's kind of bumped up a little bit in their speed, and I don't see either defense stopping the other. So over in the game, and I'm going to live trade. Good luck on your bet. I'm going to live trade and try to get both teams at least +4, hopefully +7 on both.
Yeah, I'd also mention that this could be a good live over if Ole Miss gets the ball first, goes right down the field, and Lane pulls a lane, goes for it on fourth down, doesn't get it, live total drops, and then you can get an even better number.
Yeah.
So that's why I hate betting Ole Miss as a favorite and prefer them as a dog, because just that lane fourth down variance. If that happens early, and you get, because then you might get a couple stall drive. If you get a couple stall drives early because of fourth downs, late in the game, you might get a couple touchdowns instead of field goals because Lane is doing that. So that could also be another live overlook if that happens early on. Or if like LSU goes down the field and decides to vomit near the goal line, like they did against Florida State, that could be another opportunity then to get in on a live over.
And just a marker for everybody. I'm looking at the piece I did this summer on the biggest key numbers and totals, which in this range, 65, 59, and then of course the biggest number is 55. So just use 65, 59 in your live betting over total.
All right, moving on to a final marquee game. Talk Notre Dame Duke. The Irish will travel down to Durham to face the 4-0 Blue Devils in a top 20 battle.
How boring will this game be?
5.5-point favorite. Totals come down to 53. I can't crack this game because one, it's does Notre Dame get off the bus? They should have beat Ohio State and they didn't.
Yeah.
Just a devastating loss. Now you're going down to Duke. Are they inspired? Do they come out flat? I don't know the answer to that. From a matchup perspective, I actually see some advantages for Notre Dame. If you go back to that Clemson game, the Duke defense and the pass defense has been really good. And he's going to have them well schooled with a great game plan here. And he'll have 11 guys on the field. So big coaching advantage to Duke here. But when you go back to that Clemson game, Clemson was able to just pound Duke, right? And they were just they have no explosives, but they were able to run down the field.
Yep.
And Notre Dame can do that here. So I see that as an advantage for Notre Dame. And the other side of the ball, the Duke offensive line is not excelling in run blocking. And you can't really pass on Notre Dame. Their secondary has been so good. Now, Riley Leonard, his legs, that's the wild card here, because then he can keep drives alive. He can get you third downs. There's always so much EPA in these quarterbacks who can run and are mobile that can get first downs on third downs. So, yeah, I see some advantages for Notre Dame, but I think Duke will have a better game plan. They're going to definitely be more motivated. I know that they're going to show up for this game. So this is a pass for me. I think you hinted at the under, which I can see for sure. What are you seeing here? Because I do think Notre Dame's just going to come out and then just try to grind this game on the ground throughout. And their pass has been so good, which is what you want against Duke.
The first thing I did, I really try to look at history when I'm trying to interpret overlook, hangovers, stuff like that. And it's a limited sample with Marcus Freeman. But when you do look at it, in 2022, they played Ohio State. They lost 21-10. What happened the next week? They lost to Marshall. They faced number 16 BYU at home. They won 28-20. What happened the next week? They lost to Stanford, a team that finished 3-9. Oof. And, of course, they played Clemson, number 5 Clemson last year. They beat them 35-14 at home in Notre Dame Stadium. What happened the next week against Navy? They only won by 3. So if you want to go off Marcus Freeman off of big games against ranked teams last year, it doesn't look good. It looks like this one's going to be ultra tight. Now, this game's in a dead area, 5.5.
Yeah.
I'm not putting any action in on 5.5, but you got to think this is a huge game for Mike Elko, considering that he coached. He was the reason they turned around a 4-8 season is when he got hired by Brian Kelly to come in there. Duke has allowed 35 points in 4 games so far to Clemson, Lafayette, Northwestern, and UConn. Notre Dame should have no issues running the ball here because with that schedule that I just mentioned, Duke's 99th in rushing success rate on defense. And so that is where Audric Estime is just going to be able to line up and run over them, which Clemson did. What's Clemson's problem? They choked in the red zone.
Fumbled 8 times inside the 5.
Klubnik's killing me, man. Klubnik's killing me on Saturdays. Anyways, so the best part of Duke's defense is the secondary. They're second per PFF in coverage. They're second in limiting explosive plays. They've been really good against the pass. And if you dive into Sam Hartman's history, he's torn Duke apart. 3 TDs to 1 INT, 347 last year, 400 yards the year before, no INTs, but that wasn't against Elko. So I don't think Hartman's going to pass, though. I don't see this as an air it out game. I see this as an Audric Estime, 150 yards. He averages 4.6 yards after contact. That's going to be a problem for Duke's defense. This is all going to happen on the ground. But as I say that, I could not believe what I read in Duke's numbers on the ground. Now, they run 56% of the time. And I love Jordan Waters. He has 7 touchdowns this year, and he averages 4.4 yards after contact. But did you know that Riley Leonard's created double the amount of missed tackles as Jordan Waters? That is insane to me. That is like nobody is able to get their arms around Riley Leonard and keep him down. So I just see this completely on the ground. I see Notre Dame being checked out. And I'll be interested in Duke when you get to 6.5. God, I'd love a 7. I don't think that's ever going to pop.
I would take Duke. I would take Duke plus 7. But then I wouldn't take it live because that means that Notre Dame has come out very motivated. Like if they come down and score a touchdown. But I would love to get a 7 pregame.
I might fire on 6. Would you fire on 6? I might fire on 6 pregame.
I'm really close.
Yeah,
to it. All right, good stuff there. Before we move on to our rapid fire section and talk a handful of more games, I do want to remind everyone to make sure you check out the Group of 5 guys, Mike Calabrese, Mike Ionella do a great job covering Group of 5 and fading UAB every week. So it's a lot of fun there with Trent Dilfer clips included each week as a bonus. Every Wednesday morning here on BBOC, check out the Group of 5 podcast talking all things Group of 5. They have some love for UConn too this week. The UConn team is bad. But this is probably the spot to back them. But I was impressed last week too. Duke went up there and just took care of business. Went up there and just seal clubbed them from the start. All right, let's move on to the rapid fire section. I wanted to bring out. Here comes UMass steam, baby.
They're getting hit while we're recording. While we're recording, they're getting hit.
Someone must know the trash segment's coming up. And yes, I bet UMass. All right, Is
there a Pumachan update?
I think so.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I first wanted to talk about Michigan just very briefly. They're 17-point favorites at Nebraska, total of 39. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback if Sims is healthy enough. I think
he practiced all week, but he's being called hurt. So I explain that to me.
Yeah, I don't know. So you'll get what's his name?
Heinrich Harburg.
So yeah, with Sims, if it was Sims, I would not ever consider Nebraska, because Michigan would probably get a couple short fields. But Michigan hasn't covered this year. They usually cover as big favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Edwards doesn't look like himself. McCarthy started off so well. He looked so sharp. And then he went, 8 of 13 with 3 picks against Bowling Green, which was concerning. And Michigan just isn't covering these big numbers. Neither is Georgia. They're like slower, more methodical teams. With the new clock rules, these spreads are just too high. Like they get set 7 possessions. And then you throw 1 pick you can't cover. Nebraska's defense has obviously played well this year. Any interest in continuing the Michigan fade?
Under here, not this is an under. And I think the thing that tripped me up was Heinrich Harburg, even if he is the one that plays, because he should be fully healthy. I mean, he's tossed four TDs against Colorado, Northern Illinois, La Tech, but where I have a problem is that he's had 3 fumbles. So what have you really swapped in for Jeff Sims as somebody that fumbles the ball just as much? It is impossible to back Nebraska, even against Michigan, who's stumbling, when they are dead last in havoc allowed. Nearly dead last in havoc allowed, almost there. Michigan's the best nation defensively in finishing drives. I don't see how Nebraska gets points on the board, at least enough to get over the total. So I would say under.
Here's a game we disagree on, because I saw you put this bet in. Purdue, Illinois. Make your case for your boy Brett Bielema, and then I'll make the case for Purdue.
There's no way Purdue should be favored here. I mean, I projected Illinois -1, so I'm not going out on a huge limb here. But why did Purdue open up -2? They are atrocious on defense. Listen, Purdue defense has the worst strength of schedule resume and is near dead last nationally in some of the key areas. Tackling, they are allowing explosives, passing down success rate, and the all-important stat that I love, which is finishing drives. Purdue is atrocious in all of these, and Luke Altmaier has had a 300-yard passing game against Florida Atlantic last week. If you take out the Penn State game, he's actually got really good numbers from a big-time throw to a turnover-worthy play perspective. Purdue's defense is nothing compared to Penn State, so I expect we get good Luke Altmaier because, I showed up on Saturday and bet the bad Luke Altmaier against Penn State. So I don't know what you got for Purdue. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, number one, I think this Illinois team stinks. Their defense has significantly regressed, which makes sense. They lost 3 defensive backs to the NFL in the top 75 picks of the NFL draft. But their defensive front, which is supposed to be the strength, has not played well. I mean, this is a team that's bottom 20 nationally, the front 7 in line yard, stuff rate, and havoc rate. They can't stop anyone. This is an Illinois team that got dominated by Penn State, dominated by Kansas, and they beat Toledo at home by 2 on a miracle 4th down, and they beat Florida Atlantic at home by 6. Meanwhile, Purdue, look, they've been able to move the ball up and down the field. They're averaging 400 yards per game against 3 Power 5 teams and a 4-0 Fresno State team. They just haven't been able to finish drives. Fumble luck. They're like 1 of 30 on 4th down. But I think that they found something in the run game last week. And look, against Wisconsin, they actually outgained Wisconsin. But just like their whole season, they had 3 turnovers. They were 1 of 4 on 4th down. But I just like this spot for this Purdue offense. I think they'll be able to move the ball. And I think the biggest thing here is that Ryan Walters, who Illinois also misses, their defensive coordinator, he's now the head coach of Purdue. He has an extra day. They played on Friday to prepare for this game and what Bielema wants to do on offense. I think the edge goes to him here with the extra day of prep, second straight home game. I have not liked what I've seen from Illinois. Purdue's been moving the ball. They've just been getting unlucky. And Illinois is 97th in passing down success rate. The card is going to be able to throw, and they're not getting pressure. They're not creating havoc. I think Purdue's going to be able to move up and down the field. The Purdue defense hasn't been great. So, yeah, I'm sure that Illinois is going to score, but I'm not an Altmaier guy. This is the most explosive receiving core in the country. So I like the spot for Purdue at home against this Illinois team that I don't think the market has downgraded enough.
You're going to leave me on this podcast backing Brett Bielema and Bobby Petrino. What's next? Yeah. John L. Smith coming out of retirement?
Yeah, I will troll you for this one. I have Brett Bielema pictures ready to send out. Feel free to troll me if the results go the other way. But like, there's a reason Illinois is 0-4 against the spread, in my opinion. They haven't been downgraded enough. They also have major discipline issues. This team's penalties are bad. There's some bad vibes with this team. All right, moving on. Troy at Georgia State. I'll make a quick case for Troy. Georgia State's 4-0. They've played nobody. You talk about a strength of schedule discrepancy. I have them outside the top 150. And then Troy 2-2. Some misleading box scores. Like they lost. They lost to Kansas State as they should have. They lost by 2 to James Madison. They only beat Western Kentucky by 3, but they outgained them by like 300 yards last week. And this is also, look, you're going down to Georgia State. There is no home field advantage here. And in the Sun Belt over the past 20 years, it's negative 14% ROI if you bet every home team in conference play and Sun Belt play. The home field advantage in the market is always way too high. But this is a great matchup too. Georgia State cannot defend the pass. They lost their two best defensive backs when they went up against Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina threw for 300, Rhode Island threw for 400, and then they faced two clowns that couldn't throw the ball. Well, Troy, that's their bread and butter. Pass to set up the run. Meanwhile, Georgia State relies on the run, and they're a run-heavy team, like 62% of the time they're going to run the ball with Granger at quarterback and Carroll at running back. That's been the strength of this Troy defense. They've been great against the run. They've been gettable in the secondary, but that's not really the strength of this Georgia State team. So, yeah, I mean, look, they're Troy's top 30 nationally in stuff rate, rush success rate. I think that's big here. And I think Troy could take advantage of this Georgia State secondary. Georgia State's fraudulent 4-0 here. So, I mean, look, they have played Charlotte, Rhode Island, UConn, and Coastal Carolina, who looks awful. And by the way, look at Liberty looks with Jamie Chadwell. Talk about a downgrade from the coaching department. So, yeah, I like Troy here.
Yeah, I'm joining you. I actually just shoved some money across on Troy. And then the steam's just been hitting it all week. And I took a deep dive into the numbers, and Georgia State defensive numbers against the pass are terrible. 124th in coverage grading. That's going to be taken complete advantage of. They can't stop explosive passing. But I went over to Troy because I know that there's been some issues with Gunnar Watson and Troy. So I really kind of broke it down. He's had 11 turnover worthy plays. His career, I mean, he's got a career high turnover worthy play rate of 7% right now, but 10 of the 11 turnover worthy plays came against Kansas State and James Madison. I am forgiving you against the Georgia State secondary and call you a bettable quarterback and a bettable offense against Georgia State secondary. I don't blame Kansas State, JMU racking up 10 turnover worthy plays against Gunnar Watson. It happens against better defenses. So Georgia State, by the way, on the other side of the ball, Georgia State runs the ball 61% of the time, but they're 122nd in rushing success rate, and Troy is 5th nationally in defensive stuff rate. I love me some stuff rate. Troy's going to dominate the line of scrimmage on the defensive side, and Gunnar Watson's going to have his day against that secondary of Georgia State. So give me Troy all the way.
Yeah, it's a good spot, and then a great matchup on both sides of the ball. Washington, Arizona. Washington, this line's been all over the place. They're now like an 18.5, 19-point favorite because there's questions at quarterback for Arizona. Look, Jaden DeLaura is a very talented quarterback, but he's so many turnover-worthy throws, and he's had time. The Arizona offensive line's been good. And then this freshman, Fafita, is that his name?
Fafita.
He was their highest rated player last week, and DeLaura was their lowest, even though he only saw limited action after DeLaura left. This Washington defense still hasn't been tested, and Arizona has really great receivers. But if you look at Washington, who they played so far, and this is just the only question, their offense is amazing. It's the best in the country, in my opinion, and they're putting up silly numbers. Penix is the rightful Heisman winner, but they've played Cal, Boise, Tulsa, Michigan State. None of those teams can throw. Yeah. And that was the issue with Washington last year, their secondary. You could throw on them and you could just throw it all the way down the field. And none of those teams that they've played so far can throw the ball. Cal had some success throwing it with Ben Finley, but none of those teams have the wide receivers that Arizona does. Arizona's head coach, he seemed really confident in Fafita. He's looked pretty good when I've watched him. DeLaura's made too many mistakes. I think if DeLaura gets ruled out, this line will go up. And then I'm going to take Arizona. But Cal was catching, 21 at Washington?
Yeah.
I think it got down to 20.5. I'm taking Arizona if this gets to 20. Definitely if it gets to 21, 20 when DeLaura's ruled out. What say you?
I did not understand that Cal team, and the game played out that way. Yeah, Fafita, Noah Fafita, the backup, 27 career passing attempts. And that's just not enough for me to know what the drop off in a market point spread is from Delora down to Fafita. And I just haven't seen enough running, which Delora can provide too. He left in the third quarter versus Stanford with a high ankle sprain. He was seen in a boot Monday or Tuesday. I usually high ankle sprains, you're not playing the next week. So
yeah, I assume he's going to be out.
yeah,
but it won't be announced until Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, if Jaden Delora does play, he's not going to move. He's not going to run. We've got some same Bo Nix injury from last year, right? He was booted up all week, and then he never left the pocket. And Washington doesn't create a lot of havoc, so that would be a plus for Delora if he does play, and it's a plus for Fafita if he doesn't have a pressured pocket. And Washington hasn't controlled the line of scrimmage on defense thus far in the season. 113th in defensive havoc, 118th in line yards. Listen, Washington can be ran on. And I think I've said this in previous podcasts. The best way to beat Washington is take their damn offense off the field. And, I'm not saying that Arizona is going to be able to replicate. Right now, they are third in the nation in offensive rushing success rate. And they're eighth in line yards. And can Arizona run the ball and keep Washington off the field? That's the path. That's the formula.
Michael Wiley got hurt too last week.
Yeah. I mean, there's a path for Arizona to cover, but Delora must play, and the number needs to be north of 19.5. That's it for me. And I can't bet on this Noah Fafita kid going. This Washington team is such a machine on offense, and Arizona's 116th in coverage. Let's get past the Arizona offense. The Arizona defense is 116th in coverage, and they're below mid FBS and allowing explosives. They're not generating.
Yeah, they're not going to get any stops. I'm just the bet would be can they keep up?
I don't want to walk into a firing squad. That's what Cal was. That game was just. I mean that is just one series, and you knew your bet was toast if you bet Cal.
Yeah, but they threw a pick six and then they had a punt return for a touchdown. But they had 14 points of 0 yards. That's kind of hard to cover when that happens. And Cal had a shot at the back door and just quit. Just said they were going down the field and then just said, fuck it. Meanwhile, I have Ole Miss running 50-yard dives up 20 to cover. And they just said, you know what? We're going downfield. Now let's just, who cares? We're out of here. All right. It's time for some trash. All right. I got 3 trashy trash picks, and they are bad. We're going to start with UMass. We're back, baby. ZooMass, the Maroon Army, whatever they call themselves. We are back. Taking UMass 1 point favor. I think this actually took money as we're recording. Anything under 3 is fine. I'm fading this Arkansas State team stinks. We'll see if their coach cries again. They just beat Southern Miss. They upset Southern Miss. This is a sleepy non-conference spot. Before they play at Troy, they go up to UMass. There's a good chance they don't never get off the bus. This is the same Red Wolves team that lost 110-3 on the road to Memphis and Oklahoma to start the year. And UMass, they actually now know what quarterback to prepare for because Jalen Rader, who's a true freshman, his first career start beat Southern Miss. But now they have tape on him. This is his first road start. And UMass has improved, people. They are 1-4, but they've just been unlucky. They lost to Eastern Michigan by 2 on a final minute bomb touchdown. They outgained Eastern Michigan 464 to 371, even with that bomb touchdown. Then last week against New Mexico, they lose in overtime, but they outgained New Mexico 495 to 338. They just failed on a bunch of 4th down attempts. Meanwhile, this is a team that's been dealing with they have a different quarterback every quarter, a bunch of quarterback injuries. I've heard that Tyson Pumachan, who I think gives them the best chance, has a really good chance of returning this week. If not, the backups like Carlos Davis, the other kid who came in, actually looked really good as well. They're all kind of competent. And the offense hasn't had issues. They're moving the ball up and down the field. They have like Power 5 talent now, thanks to the transfer portal at wide receiver. And also last week, they played without Jordan Mahoney, who's a future pro corner. He's their best player. And he's their most important player because Don Brown blitzes and leaves their corners on an island. So he didn't play last week. He's back this week. They said he was like he was so close to playing, but didn't. So he's back. He's their most important player on defense. That allows Don Brown to dial up a lot more blitzes, confuse this true freshman. So a couple fluky losses and key injuries for UMass, I think, are creating some value here. This team is improved. Like, they're putting up like 500 yards on offense and like just getting unlucky in these games. Whereas last year they would have lost all these games by like 20 or 30. Give me UMass for what it's worth. Underdog of a touchdown, or after winning as an underdog of a touchdown or more the previous week, as Southern Miss did. When you go on the road to face a non-conference opponent over the past 20 years in this spot, just 26-40 against the spread, 39%. UMass, baby. Agree or disagree?
Completely agree. This is, I'll throw out one stat here because we don't need to spend a lot of time on Arkansas State. So I have a whole bunch of stat categories that I don't usually bring up very much. I do use them when I handicap. One of them is catchable ball. A catchable ball is, did the offense throw a pass that was in a box around the numbers, and did the wide receiver have to work to get it? Now, my stats include FCS teams that have played FBS teams, and that makes a total of 185 in this ranking. What is Arkansas State defensively in catchable balls? Dead freaking last, 185th in the nation, which means every team that passes against Arkansas State threads a perfect needle. Arkansas State is atrocious, beyond stats, beyond FCS teams in pass defense. Completely with you here.
Love it. UMass consensus. The next one, Southern Miss at home. This line's down to +5.5.
Aiden the Bobs.
I think the market has gone too far on Texas State. Look, Texas State significantly improved under GJ Kinney, trying to replicate like the Western Kentucky model under Bailey Zappi. We can finally get a Bailey Zappi clip in the podcast. Brand new offense. It's been good, but look, they beat Baylor in the opener, but that was like what Colorado did to TCU. Baylor had no idea what to prepare for. And by the way, that win doesn't look as good now. Baylor stinks out loud. And then since then, what have they done? They lost 17-13 to UTSA. They couldn't move the ball. And UTSA has given up 37 to Army the following week, and then 45 to Tennessee. Other than that, besides surprising Baylor, they beat Nevada. They were down 17-0 at the half at home to Nevada. How the fuck does that happen?
They went crazy in the second half.
They went crazy in the second half, but like, it's also Nevada, who was the worst secondary in the entire country. And then I think they beat up on Jackson State, who's a doormat. So I think the market has just corrected both of these teams too much. Look, Southern Miss has looked horrendous. Really bad. The defense has taken a huge step back. They really miss Austin Armstrong, who's now at Florida. And last year, their three best pass rushers, they just can't replace them. Like this defense was all about getting pressure, and they're just not able to get pressure now. Gill and Latham and company, they can't find new pass rushers. Hopefully this defense shows up. This is like a good rebound spot. Texas State, this is way much of an overcorrection compared to my priors. I think this game should be closer to like a pick. Maybe I'm too high on Southern Miss. Frank Gore at least got going last week. But I think this is a good spot. For what it's worth, home dogs following a straight up loss as a touchdown plus favorite, 62% against the spread over the past 20 seasons. Only Southern Miss fits that criteria this weekend. Just a buy low, speaking to market overreaction. This Texas State team, let's throw a roll. I'm back in Golden Eagles here. Let's go nasty boys. Agree or disagree?
Yeah. I mean, I've got to agree with you. And I'm going to shed some money here and bet it with you, because when this opened up on Sunday, I thought my numbers were broken. This is a game.
I bet some +7 early in the week.
I power rate this game Texas State -1. SP Plus is at 3.
I'm around a pick.
Yeah, SP Plus is at 3 and Sagarin's at 3.5. And so when that number opened up at 7, I saw it take money. I'm like, oh, okay. But I don't know. Like, I didn't do enough studying on Southern Miss to say, is this Texas State Bob's offense that just went ballistic on Nevada in the second half? Which offense are they? Because you're right, Baylor is terrible. And I said at the beginning of the show, this week was going to be resume versus resume, and it's going to change the way people think. Texas State, 117th in strength of schedule. Southern Miss, 34th. Huge discrepancy here. So I throw away Southern Miss's numbers, and I don't put any validation into Texas State. So I'm going to bet it with you because this is the week where I think soft strength of schedule gets corrected.
Yeah. One thing I'm worried about in that game is just explosiveness. Texas State, top 10 explosiveness. Southern Miss, second to last in the nation in defensive explosiveness. They're really aggressive. They try to get pressure, which has them getting home. And then as a result, they're left vulnerable in the back end. If they are able to get pressure though this week, TJ Finley has been horrific in his career in any time that he's breathed on. All right, so that's the trash. UMass. Oh no, I got one more. Northwestern plus 27 against.
I think I got to take a walk on this one. I will just go ahead and say I am not with you. Go ahead, plead your case.
Northwestern. Look, I think they can carry some offensive momentum from last week when they put up 37. Ben Bryant went bananas in the second half. This is a sleepy spot for Penn State. Noon kick. James Franklin came out and said that they're not practicing with music to mirror the environment in Evanston, which is hilarious. He's such a dick, but that was funny. But this is a sleepy spot. Penn State off the Iowa win. They go to Northwestern for noon kick. Then they have a bye. Then they have UMass. And then it's Ohio State. It's like, this is just like, let's go through the motions. Penn State's offense still, like, there's no explosiveness. They're still trying to figure out the rushing attack. So this is a game where, by the way, the total is super low. I just need Northwestern to get to 10. There's also a good chance this game ends 24-0. And I cover. So I just think this number's too high. Sleepy spot for Penn State. And the offense just hasn't been that explosive. They're just relying on their D, methodically just marching down the field. The clock's going to be moving throughout this game. Too high. Northwestern. Shout out Ravel. All right, that's the trash. UMass, Northwestern, and Southern Miss. Before we go 3 and out.
How many wins does Northwestern have, by the way?
How many wins?
How many wins?
They have 2.
Well, what did they close on their season win total?
I don't know. What? I don't
2.5. We said on the Big Ten preview pod I was gonna take it over. I did take it over at 2.5, 3. So
I did not take it. Well, what if they get? They better not get their 3rd win this week for our Penn State.
Holy
futures.
cow! I might not be around Sunday if that happens.
Yeah, I said there's gonna be chaos. Hopefully, it's not that. All right, before we go 3 and out, Colin on San Diego State overs. San Diego State 10.5-point underdog at Air Force. Normally, San Diego State shuts down this attack.
Yep.
And I would have looked to catch 10.5. I can't bet San Diego State here. They're dead last in defensive rush success rate. They're not stuffing anything. All of the reasons we didn't like San Jose State. It's like a formula. Go to the triple option defensive metrics. They're petrifying for San Diego State. Can't back them here, but do you have any thoughts on the side or total?
Yeah, I'm taking the over in this game, and I
actually would lean the over. I would lean the over as well.
I got 43. I know there's some 40. I would stop buying. I think it 45 is up there for key. But listen, Air Force should have 0 resistance on offense. San Diego State is dead last in defensive rushing success rate. Their 122nd stuff rate. I don't know what happened to the trench. Brady Hoke told me at Mountain West that it's bad on both sides of the ball. He was not kidding. He knew it back then. The only thing stopping the Air Force offense in this game is the clock. That's it. Can Jalen Maiden scramble and score? He scrambled for 167 yards. He's had 171 designed yards. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's scramble or designed. He's getting them. Just hasn't been any explosiveness from the running backs whatsoever. Jalen Armstead, Ken and Christian, they've not been good behind. I think they're below 3 yards after contact. If there is a positive for San Diego State, it's that Air Force has not been good against the rush. They're mid FBS in all relevant ranks. And here we go. Strength of schedule for Air Force, 129th. I think San Diego State is going to be able to have a couple scrambles and scores. And I don't think anything is stopping Air Force from getting down the field. So clock will be in play, but I like the over.
All right, before we get out of here, we have to go 3 and out. I kind of like Cincy against BYU. Cincy's been unlucky the past 2 weeks. BYU got that fluky win against Arkansas. And by the way, BYU against Sam Houston State. Now that looks really bad.
There's some suspect line movement in that game, by the way.
It went to 2.5, and then it just stopped at the pick. Something's going on there.
Yeah, I've got feelers out there. I mean, the only way you're moving 4.5 points across 0 to make Cincy a favorite in Provo is Kadon Slovis has to be hurt.
But isn't it back to a pick now?
No, it's still Cincy -1, 1.5. There's even a book posting 2.5. I just, what would cause this? It has to be Kadon Slovis. He's the only one that's worth it. And I've put feelers out, and you and I have a reach that can find out what's going on. And there's nothing wrong with Kadon Slovis. So I cannot figure out. And by the way, I don't line Cincinnati as a favorite. So I have no clue why I'm still on the search. Why was there a 4.5 to 5-point move on Wednesday night on this game? I'm still searching. Well, if I find the reason, we'll see it in the app.
I think Cincy wins that game. Louisville, NC State. I can't back this NC State team. There's just no explosiveness on the offense. It's ugly. Even if it's a good home spot. No, thank you. Louisville or nothing, but I'm passing. Utah, Oregon State. Cam Rising, does he exist anymore? I don't know. The line move says he's out. This line keeps going up. If he does, I mean, Utah's been dominant against the run. That's what Oregon State wants to do. This is like smash mouth on smash mouth. The Utah offense without Rising is horrendous. They can't take advantage of the Oregon State secondary. If Rising doesn't play, this is dead nuts under. But I think Oregon State wins if no Rising. I'll probably have them in my round robin. But a lot of quarterback uncertainty there. Do you have any quick other thoughts on any of the games Friday night?
Oregon State's up to 4.5. I can't buy that. I can't justify that. Not what Utah's defense did to UCLA. UCLA is a legit team that can run the ball, and Utah just completely shut them down. I don't think that has anything to do with Rice Eccles, but 60% chance of precip up at Reser Stadium. Oregon State, I understand the love for them because they're 13-1 against the spread since 2021 season at Reser Stadium. They're amazing at home. I get it. This number is getting a little bit large. But if Cam Rising isn't playing, you're going to have Nate Johnson cover that spread for you. I do see some money starting. I took under early this week. Money is starting to finally come in on the under. So I would go in and get your 44 and a halves. They're not going to be around, I think, once kick comes.
By the way, Troy just got hit.
Yeah.
So someone's tapping the podcast. All right. Let's move on to second down. Our favorite overdog.
Oh boy.
We've hit 4 in a row, 2 back-to-back sweeps. I'm sorry, Club Lit. I'm fading Club Lit. I'm going to SMU. I think it's a good bounce back spot. Look, they played Oklahoma tough, even statistically. Charlotte, second straight road game after getting beat up at Florida. They have no secondary. Dead last in defensive back havoc. Bottom 10 passing success rate. So this is the game I think Preston Stone and that offense can get going. And the SMU defense has been really good. And I just don't see Charlotte being able to sustain drives. They're dead last in the country in third down conversion rate. This is a get-right game for SMU. I think they want to put up a big number after that loss to TCU, just like they did after the loss to Oklahoma. They came home, played a doormat in Prairie View, and won 69-0. Nice. So, yeah, I think this sets up for a blowout win for SMU, as long as they get off the bus and care. Where are you going?
I'm going to go with Texas. We talked about it earlier, -16.5, -16, whatever's out there. We talked about how they don't have any overlook. They completely take the game serious the week before Red River. We've talked about how the key handicap against Kansas is, does the defense tip what they're doing in coverage when all that motion happens with Jalen Daniels, Jason Bean. No matter what they do pre-snap, Texas doesn't fall for it. They beat them 55-14 last year. Sark is in the locker room showing tape of Texas losing to Kansas in years before. So this is just a Texas defense that doesn't fall for all that pre-snap motion. And that really takes away a big piece of that Kansas offense. When you switch over to the Kansas defensive side, yeah, they're number 1 in havoc right now, but their strength of schedule is super poor. They have not faced an offense with a pulse. And when they did, it was against BYU, and BYU pushed them around in the trench. This is it's a good spot to back Texas. They'll take it seriously here. And Quinn Ewers, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 turnover-worthy play this year. I remember when there was a quarterback battle in Austin, but that is not what's happening right now. So I'm taking Texas on the big number.
All right, let's keep it rolling with the overdogs. We're going deep in the heart of Texas, in Austin with the Longhorns, and then in Dallas, where Texas will be next week with the Mustangs. Pony up. Our final test of the show, third down, our underdog moneyline parlay with our 2 favorite moneyline underdogs. I'll kick it off. I'm going Ole Miss. Talked about it earlier. I have make them a tiny favorite. I think this game's just back and forth shootout, last team at the ball. So happy to take the plus money. Also, playing a money line dog. Like to get some variance, some high variance team. Hey, that's Lane Kiffin in 4th downs, which could play a role here. Give me Ole Miss. Healthier offense here going up against an LSU defense that is abysmal. They rank outside the top 100 in almost every advanced metric. Ole Miss should be able to keep up with LSU here. I like Ole Miss to bounce back at home. Where are you going?
I'm going to go with Florida. Your backyard going up against Kentucky here. I am not a fan of what's going on with Kentucky right now. Devin Leary does not look good. He continued to struggle under center for Kentucky, navigating through one of the easiest schedules in the nation. Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, and Vanderbilt. Devin Leary has thrown an interception in every single one of those games. Questions are persisting around his torn pectoral that ended his season with NC State last year. And now he's up at Kentucky and struggling to throw the ball. And the Florida resume, there's plenty of bullet points here. They've already been on the road at Salt Lake. They had a rivalry win over Tennessee. A large portion of their credit goes to defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong. We talked about Southern Miss and their struggles on defense. It's because Florida has their defensive coordinator. The Gators are top overall defense and rushing success rate. They have complimentary top 10 ranks and a bunch of categories that we need. And the only way that the quality drives have been elusive for Florida and their opponents. And the only avenue for success against Florida's defense is through the air. And I just mentioned that Devin Leary is having some super problems throwing the ball. So I'm absolutely on Florida here. We're going to keep it running. I'm not going to name their coach off by name, but they are making us money and I'm going to continue to roll with them.
For what it's worth, I completely disagree here. I'm going to have this game written up on actionnetwork.com. This is still Graham Mertz. By the way, yeah, they played Utah, the Utah backup quarterbacks. We see what this Utah team has done since then. They can't score. They couldn't score against Baylor. And then they played Tennessee. But you're giving them credit for the Tennessee win. Tennessee stinks. All of a sudden, you're a Tennessee fan.
What's Kentucky's? Look at who Kentucky's played. Who's Kentucky?
Their other ones came against Charlotte and McNeese State. And they couldn't even get the 20. They couldn't even score 2 touchdowns against Charlotte last week. For what it's worth, the key to this game is explosiveness. Kentucky, number 1 in the country in offensive explosiveness. You know who's dead last in defensive explosiveness? Florida. It's worst first. That's the difference. Stoops came out and said he has full faith that the lovely people of Kentucky will be able to drink beers and get out for the early kick. I promise you I'll be part of that with a Kentucky ticket in hand.
There's going to be some early beers for me if Graham Mertz screws me out of some more money in my wallet.
Yeah, we will. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. And I just think a couple explosive plays by Kentucky will be the difference. But, yeah, Leary early on, he's really struggles. And then he starts to get going. Mechanical issue post-injury is definitely a thing. But we'll see if Horsey comes back for Kentucky, too, which could be big their guard. We'll have the overdogs and underdogs written up on actionnetwork.com and the Action Network app. Thanks, as always, to Colin for joining me. Thanks to our producer, Matt Mitchell, on the back end. And, of course, thanks to all of you. I do have some giveaways, so make sure that you leave 5-star reviews. We'll do giveaways here. You could say whatever. You could say who you agree with when it comes to Kentucky or Florida. But we're going to do Kurt Parr, M. Volk 7, Go Bucks 0315. I doubt he listens to our show anymore. T. Sips 31. And O&D 1770. Reach out to myself or our producer, and we'll get you some gear. Appreciate all the support. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Again, leave that 5-star review. If you've already done one, grab your friends, girlfriends, moms, sisters, brothers' phone and leave another one. They really help us out. We appreciate all the support. Let's have a weekend. By the way, don't forget about the Group of 5 guys. Also, the new BCS, new fun format. That episode comes out on Tuesdays, and it's also live 10:30 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. And, of course, we'll be back for BBOC live 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. Good luck on all of your wagers, and we'll see you on Saturday. Cheers.
Peace out.